There's something on the wing. Something on the wing. Okay. Well, I'll try and refrain from doing terrible Shatner impressions for the rest of this review. So what I have here is something I picked up. I've been wanting to get one of these for a while. Main reason is I wanted to use it with a certain set of figures, and I will showcase those certain set of figures when I get through this massive box that is in front of you. So this, if you're not familiar with, is the vintage collection, or not vintage, it is the old Playmates, the 90s, I would imagine. I can't remember when it actually came out, but I think it was 95 thereabouts. This is the classic Star Trek 30th anniversary series. In fact, it even says up in the corner 1966 to 1996. So I'm assuming this came out in 1996. I'm not sure if you can see that here, but I'll turn the box around. The box is a bit big, but you can see, turn sideways, you can see that thing here. But this is the Shuttlecraft Galileo. I got it with the box, which is interesting. It is missing one thing, and the sticker placement on it of the one that I got is absolutely terrible. But if I flip around the back of the box, you can see most of the stuff that it has. And it comes in an exclusive, supposedly exclusive, Captain James T. Kirk. James Tiberius Kirk. So it showcases, in fact, if I just up my camera just ever so slightly, so you can see what it's showcasing. So you have axis, main axis, rear axis. So you got scanners, astro gear, control panel, pilot chair, engine nacelles, a spring-powered laser cannon, which I don't know what they were doing with laser cannons when they're off exploring and being explorers, but you know, they did have phasers, so I suppose there you can give them some leeway. And it just showcases some of them, the same stuff again. What is interesting, I didn't know that. Interesting. I'll have a look at that in a minute. It has an opening cockpit. It has the one thing that is very, very bad on this, and you will see it when I bring it in, or when I pause and bring it in, is the sticker placement on this. The person who had this, who I don't know if the person who I won it off actually was the person who put the stickers on it, because I got this on eBay. It may have been the case that it was passed down generation, that kind of thing. It doesn't look too well, it doesn't look that well played with, in the sense that there's not too many scuffs or dings. Even old Kirk here, like a lot of times they're not com badges on the original Trek, they're just the Starfleet logo badge, would be rubbed off, or the hair would have paint rub, or even the hands would have paint rub. He's in pretty good condition. So we'll pause here, we'll bring in the shuttlecraft itself, and we'll go through all its bits and bobs. So bear with me, we'll be right back. So here is the shuttle in all its glory. I have rolled James D out of it because the figures I did want to showcase with this, or at least see if it works better with, because I always felt that these figures were way too big for this shuttle, as in like the scaling of it. I always felt like on the show it was fairly big. I felt these figures seemed a little too big, so if I open up our cockpit area, boom, and it stays open, swinging around, you can see I have one of the Haya figures. Now this is supposed to be Scotty. I did do a review of this guy. It doesn't look anything, well, to me it doesn't look anything like Simon Pegg, but you know, them's the breaks. But, and I know this is a different universe version, as in it's not the same original line, but it is the Kelvin verse, and the ships are kind of similar anyway. I did feel that these guys scale a little bit better to this shuttle. So if I just close down the lid, put this back here, You can see it's not a perfect match, but it does look a little bit more in scale than the old James T. In fact, speaking of scale of James T, we'll bring in this. You can see he is around just a shy of 5 inches, where these guys are 4, so there's about an inch in difference, which means they kind of scale a little bit better. So as you can see what I mean about the stickers, I had to redo. I might try and see if I can put some pictures of what it looked like before I got it, but I had to take this sticker. There was, I think one of these was going across the top up here, and there was one of these going across the front. It should have a different sticker in front. In fact, you can see where it had been just outlined, basically placed. I'm not sure if you can see it too well, but you can see the Galileo signs, which should be up on the side. If I bring around this side, you can see these stickers should be along here, and you have this flip down panel for the nacelles, which is pretty cool. It does have nearly everything physically, except for one bit, which is the missile of the laser cannon. It has the rear opening flap, and if I open up the back, you can see Chekhov, or at least the movie version, the Abrams movie version, Chekhov is sitting in there quite comfortably. You do have this fairly large chair. If I could remove that, it probably would look a little bit better for Chekhov, but it is what it is. But this thing folds down and it looks pretty cool. I'll just leave him in there for the moment. So, like, again, scaling wise, I think it does scale a little better with the smaller figures. It looks like you could actually go in and out of this without smacking your head. I suppose his head would be a bit up there, but, you know, you'd have to duck down a small bit more than Kirk would. Here is the weird little laser cannon doohickey thing. I didn't realize that this plugs in up on the roof, but it's missing the actual missile for the launching, but most of it, like the rest of it, is there. I suppose you could get away with using it as some sort of exploration device or scanner or some sort of thingamabob. So I'm going to close this up at the back. It should just click into place, but there is a way of doing it. There we go, clicks in place. I'm going to move Kirk out of the way. What it does have, which is pretty cool, there's this little flip down panel, and then the store piece slides open, so it does look like they could be walking in and out of this, which is pretty cool. Again, it does have even more armament, which is kind of interesting. So on the front here, there's a flip down panel, and it has some sort of, like, I think they're supposed to be torpedoes, or it could be phasers. I'm not sure. They don't look like phasers, but it could be torpedoes of some kind. It has that opening side piece. There's nothing really on the bottom except for these landing struts, which are pretty cool. And then if I open back up the cockpit again, and a piece of information I didn't realize is that this thing is stuck up here for some reason. Not sure. I suppose you can store it there when there is no one sitting in it, because if you put someone in here, I suppose they might be able to fit. I know Scotty will probably fit without it getting in his way, but we'll try. He might just smack off his face. You also have these, like, positional seatbelts, which are interesting. Let's get you in your seat a little bit better. The seat does rotate as well. So, I suppose, alright, interesting. I did not notice that on the box instructions, that you can actually store that thing in there. I suppose maybe with the missile in it, you can't even store it in there, but it is quite nice. All in all, it's not a bad ship. I've been wanting to get one, as I said, for a while. Now, the only reason I've been holding back on getting one is because I wanted to get one relatively cheap. I didn't want to pay through the nose for it. A lot of them seem to be 50 plus in price rise, and I kind of bided my time, and I managed to pick this one up for about 20, which isn't too bad. In fact, the seller who I got it off gave me a deal on it, so I managed to pay a little bit less for it. What is interesting is it doesn't have the electronics like this one. If I bring this in, this is the Goddard. I know I'm making hymns of putting it together in front of you. But I will bring this in. This is the next gen shuttlecraft that they did, Playmates. I know it's pretty hard to see because I have my camera so squished in, so I'll move this back a bit. You can see the two of them together, and if I move my whole rig without knocking everything over, you'll probably see the mess around it, but you can see the Goddard and the Galileo together. Goddard has similar kind of stuff. You can see good old Riker sitting in this. This is the Playmates Reimagine line that they did for a very, very short-lived Reimagine line, which they only got, I think, was it one wave of figures for next gen, one wave of figures for original series, when it wasn't even original series, it was the movies. Let's move Dustin out of the way. And then they did 2 Discovery figures. They did Burnham and Saru, is that his name? The big tall alien dude played by, oh, what's that actor's name? It's going to annoy me now because he's the guy that played Abe Sapien. He plays he's done a ton of stuff with Guillermo del Toro. He's the creature in Pan's Labyrinth. Doug Jones, that's his name. Yes. If you don't know who Doug Jones is, I recommend Google searching him. 90% of the time you will have seen him in something but not realize that it was him, because he's generally caked in prosthetics, and he very rarely you see him as himself as an actor. You see him most of the time caked in prosthetics under a whole bunch of stuff. So yes, Saru, that is the character's name, I believe. But I'm getting off point and off track, but this is the Playmates version of the next gen shuttle next to the original series shuttle. They're about the same size, so again, they would work well with the smaller figures. The only difference is the next gen shuttle looks far too modern for the Abrams universe stuff, which is why I don't use it with them. And oh yeah, Scotty and Chekhov are back in here. But you can see they have the same, pretty much the same seats in there with the clips. It is a shame that this doesn't have electronics like the others, but I don't suppose, unlike the next gen, there's no light up, like the nacelles don't light up on this. The only thing they could have probably put into it would be sound effects, and I don't think, trying to remember much of the original series, I don't remember them. I don't think it actually flies in it. I think it's just like a prop piece that they're already on a planet. I could be wrong. If someone in the comment section wants to correct me, I believe it does. In the original series, I don't remember it taking off or landing. I think it just, maybe it does a landing sequence. That could be the only thing. But like it is featured in, I think, 1 or 2 episodes. They generally did they use the shuttlecraft most of the time, or did they just use transporters? I think they used the transporter more than the shuttlecraft, so it was very rarely used. I could be wrong, but I have a vague recollection of them using the transporter over the shuttlecraft, but I could be misremembering stuff, because I could be misremembering stuff with next gen, because they use the transporter all the time in next gen, and very rarely did they use shuttles. It wasn't until really DS9 when they started using like runabouts and shuttles for more things than I can remember. But again, getting sidetracked and getting off the point. So there you go, guys. There is a review for the old Playmates 1996, I want to say, Shuttlecraft. The original series, or classic Star Trek Shuttlecraft series. It does scale quite nicely with those Haya figures if you have any of them, which is why I wanted to get this, because so far there isn't anything that's Trek adjacent or Trek like a shuttle that's in scale with them that would work. So this is probably the closest thing you might get. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review, and as always, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching wherever you are in the world. Cheers.